Hi guys, good morning. Hope you guys are doing great. Welcome to this other video. So today in this video we are going to do the practical labs on the FortiGate VLANs. So this is a lab concerning our series of video on FortiGate VLAN and VDOMs. So in the previous video where we started this series of video on FortiGate VDOM and VLAN. So in that previous video, we saw some of the main concepts related to FortiGate VDOMs. So we saw some use cases. So we did like a comparison between VLAN and VDOMs because there are like some similarities. So it was important for us to explain what are the main differences between the two technologies. So we also saw the primary characteristics of VDOMs and also the prerequisite if you need to implement VDOMs on your infrastructure. So today we are going to start with activities. So today we are going to start activities on the VLAN. So in the previous video I mentioned we had this following activity that were prepared. So this activity were mainly focused on VDOMs. So I thought to myself that maybe it would be interesting if we can begin with labs on VLANs before doing the labs on VDOMs. So when doing the labs on VDOMs, you have a better understanding on what are the main differences between VLANs and VDOMs. So today we'll be starting with lab 1 and 2. So in lab 1, these activities are on VLANs. So on lab 1, we'll be setting up a lab environment where we'll have a diagram of a common use case where we'll have like 4 VLANs and 2 Cisco switches. So we'll do the configuration, DHCP with IP addressing. So we'll do some testing on workstations. Then we'll do routing and inter-VLAN communication. So there we are going to see how to enable and create firewall rules for the inter-VLAN communication. Then we'll do the testing to make sure communication between VLANs is possible, and working fine. Then on lab 2, we are going to talk about security and traffic optimization. So as we are talking about VLAN, so don't remember that the main objective of using VLANs is that most of the time you would like to do some segmentation or isolation on your network. So you would like to distinguish various subnets on your infra, maybe for different environment, production and lab, or between department, maybe HR, finance, IT. So you want to isolate those sub network or those network or those departments. So the idea is that when you set up the lab, you also need to make sure that you enable and configure security and traffic optimization in the best way so that the traffic for those subnet or those VLANs will work fine for you and will not have like issues on your network. So because I've worked I've worked with some clients where they have like issues or they had issues after creating VLANs because they did not perform the security and traffic optimization. So in this lab 2, what we are going to do is to talk about security, mostly related on SSL inspection and access restriction on each VLAN. So we are going to see what are the level of access that we can set up on a VLAN. We also talk about traffic prioritization on a specific VLAN. So for example, in your network, you like maybe to provide efficient traffic for a particular VDOM. So we are going to see that in this subtask. We also see how to manage quality of service. So we are going to do this for each VDOM, or let's say for each VLAN. So there are like 2 ways of doing it. You are doing it per group of user or per IP addresses. So we'll see this during this lab. I'll also see how to configure VLAN with SD-WAN. So here we'll see how to, for example, how we can assign a specific ISP to some VLANs. So maybe you have like 2 or 3 ISP that you have on your FortiGate device. Then you would like a particular ISP to provide internet access and services to some specific VLANs, and the other VLANs will maybe get their internet service from another ISP. So we'll see how to configure all of this in lab 2. So after we've configured the set up the environment and provide some security and traffic optimization, we'll then jump on the other series of labs related to VDOM. So here we are going to do these 4 activities. So without wasting time, this is the diagram of the environment, the lab environment that I will be using on this VLAN labs, on this lab related to VLAN. So here I have my FortiGate device with port 1 that's going to internet. Then here we have like 2 Cisco switches. So here what we are going to do, on each switch we are going to create like 2 VLANs. So here we have VLAN 10 for employees, VLAN 20 for visitors. Then on the other switch we have VLAN 30 for servers and 40 for telephony and voice over IP. So here what we are going to do is, for each of these FortiGate, on each of these switches, we are going to assign specific port number. So here, for example, on VLAN 10, we are going to use Ethernet 0/1 to 0/3 for VLAN 10. Then we'll do the same here with VLAN 20, same here with on the other switch. Then these 2 ports here, Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 0, on each of the switches is going to be configured as a trunk port, so that this can let inter-VDOM communication on the switch. So this will permit traffic from different VLANs to pass through the switch. So that's where we are going to configure VLANs. So what we are going to do, without wasting time, let's jump directly on our lab environment here. So here is our lab environment on the GNS3. So as I mentioned, what we are going to do here, first thing that we are going to do is to jump on each of these switches. Then we are going to do the configuration of the switch port. So we are going to assign the interfaces to each VLAN. We are going to create the VLANs, assign the interfaces, the corresponding interfaces to each VLAN. Then we'll configure the Ethernet port, the 0/0, as a trunk port, and allow the trunk port to let access to VLAN 10 and 20 here, and the other switch we're going to do the same thing, but this time with VLAN 30 and 40. So without wasting much time, we'll begin the configuration on the switches, where when we are done with the switches, we will now connect to the FortiGate device to perform the creation of those VLANs. So without wasting time, let's jump directly on this switch. So here you can use any switch that lets you configure VLAN. So either it being a layer 2 switch or a layer 3. So as far as you are able to configure VLANs on that switch, you can proceed. So here we are using a Cisco switch. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with this command, show VLAN. Okay, for now there is no VLAN, for now every configuration is on default. So what we are going to go now is go on the configuration interface, the terminal configuration mode. So from here, what we are going to do, we are going to create the VLANs. So here what we are going to do is to create the 2 VLANs. So I'll begin by the first VLAN 10. So name employees. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign VLAN ports that will be member of this VLAN. So I'll exit from the VLAN mode, then I'll go on interface range, Ethernet 0/1. So I'm starting with 1 because the Ethernet interface 0/0 is the one that is going to be used as the trunk. So here we are using 0/1 to 3, and here we'll be using 1/1 to 3 for the visitors VLAN. So here I'm going from Ethernet 0/1 to 3. So I'm going to put the switch port mode to access. Then I'll hit switch port access VLAN 10. Okay, so we are done with this. So now let's go with VLAN VLAN 20. I'm going to call this visitors. I'm done with creating the VLAN. Now we go in interface range, Ethernet 1/123. So just to make you understand what the interfaces that I have on my FortiGate. So if you check on my switch, so if you check here on the switch, you will see that I have like four set of interfaces. So I have Ethernet 0/0 to 0/3. Then I have Ethernet 1/0 to 1/3. Then another series of interfaces is 2/0 to 2/3, and the fourth series is 3/0 to 3/3. So that's why you can see that I'm having. So that's why just so that you understand the setting that I'm actually doing. So here for the VLAN of the visitors, we are going for Ethernet 1/1 to 3. So here the switch port mode is access. So the port will be accessing VLAN 20. Okay, VLAN 20. So I'm good here. So next, what we need to do is to enable the trunk interface, right? So here we'll go with interface Ethernet 0/0. Okay, so we are on interface 0/0. So here what I'm going to do is go with command switch port trunk encapsulation.1q, hit enter. So now we say switch port mode trunk. Okay, so now we need to allow we've configured the port in trunk mode. Now we need to allow to specify what are the VLANs that we would like to pass on this switch for now. So that's where I'll say switch port trunk allow VLAN, then I'll say add. So from here I will add the different VLANs number that I want to let it pass on this switch. So I'll hit 20, comma, then I'll add the second one. So this is how you add multiple VLANs. So you put one, you put a comma, then you send the other one. So I'll be allowing the traffic for these VLANs 10 and 20. Hit OK. So all is good. Hit exit. Exit again. So I'll try again to see show VLAN. Okay, just to check that our settings are good. So we have VLAN 10 here with the assigned interface, same for VLAN 20 with the assigned interfaces. And here, if you see on VLAN 1, by default you don't see interface 0/0 because it is in a trunk mode. So we are done with switch 1. So we do the same on switch 2. Show VLAN. Okay, everything default. Config T. VLAN 30. Okay, name, save as. Okay, exit. Interface range 0/1 to 3. Interface range, okay, sorry, interface range Ethernet 0/1 to 3. Hit enter. Switch port mode, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 30. Okay, we are done here. Same with VLAN 40. Name, just call it VoIP. Okay. Exit. Interface range Ethernet 1/123. Switch port mode is access. Switch port access VLAN 40. Okay, we are good. So now let's go with the trunk port. Internet 0/0. Okay, switch port trunk encapsulation .1q. Okay, then now we'll go with switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk allow VLAN at 30 and 40. Okay, hit exit again, show VLAN. Okay, so all looks good so far. So now we are done with configuring, setting we're doing the settings on each of the switches. So now what we need to do is to jump on the firewall and proceed with the firewall settings. So here on my firewall, what I have so far here is you can see the different interfaces. So you see here my port 1 is the one that's actually connected to the internet. So based on our diagram here, so we have these two ports, port 2 and port 3, where on port 2 we are going to create like sub interfaces. So the VLAN interfaces are going to be sub interfaces of the physical interface. So what we are going to do from here is here we are going to go under create new. So here we'll go create new interface. Then here we need to provide the name. So I'm going to call this employee. Type of interface, so it is a VLAN interface. So the physical interface is going to be on port 2. Then the VLAN ID here is going to be 10. So here we are going to give provide an IP address for this VLAN. So this is also going to be the default IP, the default gateway for the DHCP server that we are going to create. So see on the diagram here that each VLAN of the VLAN here has a subnet that we are going to configure on it. So that's what we are doing here. And so what we are going to do is we are configuring DHCP server on each VLAN so that the devices that are part of that VLAN will receive IP addresses directly from the DHCP server. So that's what we need to do here. So after configuring entering the IP address, the default gateway of this subnet. So here below, if you like, you can enable some of this administrative access protocol. So what we need here is to enable DHCP server. So DHCP server enabled. So here what I'm going to do, I'm starting IPs from 100. Okay, so that's good for me. I want the IP or the devices to have the same default gateway, the same DNS server as the same DNS server as the system. So all looks good for me. So all I need to do here is just to hit OK. So here, if it is the first time that you are creating VLANs, you will find out that when you are on the interfaces menu, you will not see the VLAN display. It's because the VLAN, as I said, is a sub interface of a physical interface. So when you create the interface, the sub interface, you need to click here on the physical interface. So you see here, you can click here, and now under the sub interface, under the physical interface, now you will see the VLAN interfaces with the set configurations. So that's how it works. So we are going to go with the second VLAN. So here is the VLAN for visitors. Interface port 2, VLAN is 20, IP address 192.168.20.1/24. Same thing here, DHCP server starting from 100. All is good. Okay, so we have the two IP or the two VLANs which are under the physical port 2. So we are going to do same with port 3. So we are going to create the VLANs that are under port 3. So I hit interface. So here the next VLAN is for servers. So here we'll be residing under port 3 and the ID is 30. So here 192.168.30.1/24 DHCP. Okay, starting from 100. Okay, hit OK. We'll do the fourth one. VoIP port 3 interface VLAN 40 192.168.40.1.24. Doing the same here. DHCP 100. Okay, so we have our 4 VLANs, right? So 2 VLANs per physical port, and we have the IP settings here also for each of the VLANs. We have the administrative protocol that we've enabled, and we have here the DHCP ranges that we've configured for each of them. So now we need to check about DHCP clients. So normally, if the settings that we did on our switches, if those settings work fine, then normally after enabling or powering on a device that is on each of the VLANs, we'll be able to get DHCP clients, information about DHCP clients directly on this row or on this column. So what I'm going to do now is to jump directly here on the web term. So here I'm going to right click the web term, just go under edit config to ensure that these 2 lines, so these 2 lines, you need to uncomment them. So you need to uncomment them if you want the web term to get an IP from a DHCP server. So just make sure you've removed the comment from these 2 lines. So if that's the case, all I need to do is simply to start the device. So I'll do the same with all the devices here. So all is good. So I'm going to power on 1 device per VLAN. Then we'll do some testing to make sure all works fine. Okay, 1 device per VLAN. We've already powered on 1 device per VLAN. So let's jump again on our firewall policy. We'll just refresh here on our firewall here, and then we'll just refresh. So here normally if all works, okay, good. So all is working fine. We can see now that under DHCP client we have 1 client per VLAN. So the devices are working great. So just to double check, if I connect on this web term, just try to hit if config. Okay, 10.100, that's good. If I check here, if config, okay, 20.100. Okay, I guess each of the devices have taken the first IP address. So what we are going to do now is, actually we are good with VLANs. So from here, if I launch a ping request like pinging 192.168.10.100, which is the VLAN 10. So I'm sending a ping request from VLAN 20 to VLAN 10. So hit enter. So normally this will not work, right? Because as for now there is no inter-VLAN communication or settings that we have already done on the FortiGate firewall. So for now it's not going through. So what we need to do now is we'll go back on our FortiGate device. So here, if we need, for example, to do inter-VLAN communication, what we need to do is to go under firewall policy. So policy and object. So under this menu, we'll go under firewall policies. So here by default, we have just the implicit default, the implicit deny policy that is available. So What we are going to do now is to create a firewall policy. Let's say, for example, I would like to authorize users from the employee VLAN to be able to ping or to access the visitor network, but I don't want users from the visitor network to be able to ping or access resources in the VLAN or the employee VLAN, right? So for security purposes, so that's simple to understand. Will not permit visitors to have access to corporate network, right? So what we are going to do here is we are going to go create a new firewall policy. So I'm just going to call this employee to visitors. So just make it simple like this. So here the incoming interface. So as you can see here, when you create like VLANs, so when using outgoing or incoming interfaces, you are now able to select the VLAN interfaces. So VLAN interfaces are now available as a source or incoming or outgoing interface, rather than only the physical interfaces as when you don't have VLANs, right? So here with the incoming interface will be the employee, and the outgoing here will be the visitors. So you also notice now that under source here, you will see now that also notice that from here under sources, there is this object that was automatically created when the VLAN for employee was created. So when you create a VLAN, there is like this address object that is automatically created. So this address object is related to the subnet for that VLAN. So it make it much easier here if you want to create a firewall policy that applies specifically for the subnets of that VLAN, right? So here I'm going to select directly the employee object here as the source, and the destination I want to land directly in the visitor subnet. So I'm just selecting it here. So for services, so from here as usual, you can select what are the services that you want. So for testing purposes, I'm going with all. Then below, there are security purposes here. So for now, we are not talking about this security purposes. So all is good so far for me. So all I need to do here, just hit OK. Okay, so now I have a firewall policy that will let the users from the employee VLAN to access visitors. So from here, what I can double check again is to go here under my diagram. So I'll open here on the PC VLAN. So from here, if I send a ping request to 192.168.20.100, so this is the VLAN access to VLAN 20 from the employee VLAN. This is working fine. But if I go here under the VLAN 20, let's say I'm taking PC3, you see that the ping request to 10.100 is still not going through, because we have not yet enabled a firewall policy that allows this traffic, right? So from here, you see that inter-VLAN communication is working fine here. So we are going to do the same here with between server VLAN and the VoIP VLAN. So we like to authorize communication between the two VLANs, right? So what we are going to do is here we are going to hit create new. So I'm just calling this servers to VoIP. Okay, server to VoIP. So from the server network to VoIP. Source here also server network, destination VoIP. Okay. Services, let's just say all. So hit OK. Okay. So depending on the firewall FortiOS that you are running, there's an option here when you want to create like a reverse firewall policy. What you can do here is just right click on a firewall policy. Then here you have like an option that states create a reverse firewall policy. So when you just hit that option, it will create the same firewall policy with the same rules, but the only difference that you have here is that the source will be the destination and vice versa. So that's an easy way to create a reverse firewall policy. So here, as I am using a a FortiOS that is prior to 7.2, so I don't have that option here. So for this one, I will manually need to create a firewall policy to go from VoIP to server. So let's just do it. VoIP to servers. So incoming interface, VoIP, outgoing servers, source, VoIP address. So destination is the server address. Okay. Service all, close, apply. Okay, so here normally communication should work fine between these two subnets or between these two VLANs. So here I'm on the server VLAN. So if config 30.10, so if I send a ping request to 192.168.40.100, so this should work. So I can send a ping request to VLAN 40. Same here under VLAN 40. If I go on terminal, if config 40.100, sending a ping to VLAN 30. Okay, so I have access. So there is communication. So there is communication on inter-VLAN. Communication works fine. So you remember we did not enable visitors to access this because, as we said, for security purposes, in your infra, you will not let the visitors to get access to your corporate network, right? So visitors should not get access either to employee servers or voice over IP VLANs. So now what we need to do is we would like now to enable communication between the VLANs that are on this switch to access the VLANs that are on the other switch and vice versa. So for example, what we need to do, for example, is we would like to configure a firewall policy to let users on the employee VLAN to access maybe the server VLAN. So let's jump directly here and create a firewall policy for that. So we are calling this employees to servers, right? So okay, incoming interface is employee, destination is server, source employee address, destination is server address, is it? And the service here, let's say for example we're going with all. Okay, so all is good so far. I hit okay. So with this firewall policy, employees should be able to access the servers, right? So let me just close this. So here under the PC, so now at this moment of the video, when you will be watching this video, at this moment, do you think because we created this firewall policy, do you think we'll be able to send a ping request from this PC to this other PC? Just take like when you are on this video, when you are watching this video, at this step, just hit like a pause. Then you check about all the settings that have been done so far. And do you think the ping request will go from here to this PC5? Do you think it will be a success? So let's try and see. So here on PC1, what we are going to do is that we are going to send a ping request. So 192.168.30.100. So I hit enter. So from here you see we have access to VLAN 30, right? So you can see now that from here we are able to send a ping from PC1 to PC5. PC1 is coming with VLAN 10, while on PC5 PC5 is on VLAN 30. So remember when we were configuring switches. So let me say, for example, if I send a ping request from PC5, so here, so when I send a ping request from here 192.168.10.100, you see now from here there is no communication between PC5 and PC10 because there is no firewall policy that have been created to let that traffic go. So same thing here. So if you need also communication to go on the other way, so from server to the employees, you also need to create a firewall policy, right? So you already know what we need to do so far. So what else do we need to do on task on lab 1? So we've done so far inter-VLAN communication and do some testing. So okay, so all looks good. So also you can notice that from the VLANs here, or from the VLAN here, you can notice that from the VLAN we don't have internet access, right? So we don't have internet access from here. So you understand that we don't have internet access from here. So this is not part of the video, but just to make it work. So if we need to enable internet access on, if we need to enable internet access on the VLAN, so what we need to do here is we'll go here under network, static routes. So from here you just need to create a static route to route all traffic to go through port 1. So the port 1 is the port that is related to the internet. So hit OK. Then here also under firewall policy. So here firewall policy. So as you have created the static route, so if you go here again on the, if you come here again on the PC, so you try to refresh, trying to refresh this or to access any website. So you see you don't have access because the static route is not will not let you go to the internet if a firewall policy is not explicitly created to authorize that traffic. So from here what you need to do is to create another firewall policy. You will see, for example, employee to, let's say maybe employee to internet. So do employee outgoing interface. This time you will take 1. So also source is the employee subnet, destination is maybe all so far. Then here under services, you select the service that you want, then just hit OK. Okay, so the employee to internet is now available. So if I go back again here and do some refresh, okay, so we should be able to get internet access, right? So that's how you enable internet access on your FortiGate VLAN. So that's been said. Depending on the length of this video, I'll see if we need to perform lab 2 on the same, if we need to add lab 2 on this same video, or otherwise we'll do lab 2 in another video. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have any thoughts, any requests, any observation, any appreciation, feel free to post in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe, and let's meet in the next video.